Hi, everyone. It is Joe Jacobi here, and I am in Key West. Not my normal kayaking background and scene, but I am on the cusp of a very exciting kayak adventure that launches tomorrow. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. I am an Olympic gold medalist in the sport of whitewater canoe slalom. And I'm also one of the InstaViser coaches, and I focus my coaching on the sport of canoe kayak, both all kinds of kayaking, whitewater, flatwater sprint, and recreational as well. Um, you know, my Olympic story, it began at summer camp. I was a product of summer camp where I got to. I was exposed to the sport of canoeing and kayaking in the Washington, D.C. area. It was a camp that had a terrific history in the sport of whitewater, had a number of champion level paddlers that came out of the summer camp. And I just got hooked on it at a very young age. And it was just something that I wanted to do and do more of. I was also very lucky to grow up in the Washington, D.C. area on the Potomac River. And that was important. And at the time I was growing up in the mid 1980s, the United States was dominating the sport of whitewater canoe slalom, and all the top athletes and the top coaches lived and trained in the Washington, D.C. area. And they were all kind enough to take me under their wing, let me be a part of their group. And it was didn't take me very long to decide that this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to paddle. I wanted to race with these guys. I wanted to spend time with them, competing overseas, and just seeing how well I could do and how far I could go in the sport. But the funny thing was, when I started in the sport of whitewater, the sport wasn't even on the Olympic program, and the sport wasn't added to the Olympic program until officially in early 1989. So that was a couple of years that I had already been racing at the national level and the national team level. The World Championships was the top level of the sport at that point. But then when the sport was added to the Olympic program, that was just another opportunity to take our game to the next level. And I think that realization that we could enjoy the sport that we loved so much on that Olympic stage, and just be in the position to share it with that kind of audience was an incredible opportunity. And that's really what kind of hooked me in for the next couple of years, and really wanting to work with my canoe partner, Scott Strasball. We paddled a doubles canoe. It's referred to as a C2. At the time the sport was added to the Olympic program in 1989, we were getting good results at that point. We were getting a lot of top 5 in the world results at World Cups, World Championships, and beginning to win medals at World Cup races as well. And, there are so many lessons and concepts and strategies that I took out of this sport, just that came along with the natural training of the sport. One of the things about whitewater is you can't simulate the sport of whitewater anywhere else in the world. If you want to be good on the Olympic course, that means you have to spend a lot of time at the Olympic course. There's a lot of specialized training. And that meant for the Olympic course in outside of Barcelona, Spain, in the little town of La Seu d'Urgell, about 2 hours to the north of Barcelona, which is where the venue was. It meant that we spent a lot of time training on the whitewater course there. In the year before the 92 Olympic Games, we spent about 100 days training on that course, just trying to learn every square inch of that course, understanding how the water flowed, how the water worked, being comfortable in that race environment. And I think even today, the lessons that you really learn from kind of knowing your environment, knowing what's around you when you go out and you tackle a pursuit, I think that's something that really kind of came out of our whitewater training. And then secondly, if you think about the nature of whitewater, this is not a controlled surface. This is not like a swimming pool or a track that has a stable surface. Whitewater is constantly moving, it's constantly changing. So that means that you're always adjusting, and you have to, one of the really important skills of whitewater is that ability to shift from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan D without even thinking about it, to be able to do it seamlessly. And when you're doing it in a boat where there's not one person in it, but two people, that communication has to just happen without talking about it. You know, you have to be good at not just reading the water, but reading each other. So all of those elements really came together for us in a big way leading up to the 92 Olympics. We had really the race of our lives at the Olympic Games. And, you know, I think we always prided ourselves not on being the best in practice, but being really good on race day and learning how to really adjust your energy levels and your intensity levels and your intentions, so that they really all come together on race day. And that was just something that we were good at, because we weren't the dominant boat in the sport. We weren't the biggest, the strongest, the fastest, but we were really good on race day, and we put ourselves in a great position to race at the Olympics. So all those ideas, all those lessons kind of really created, I think, what I would refer to as that blueprint for success for me in my life after paddling, which it was kind of interesting. I knew how good the sport had been to me. I knew how good the people had been to me. I was always looking for ways to stay involved and stay invested and stay connected to the people that did the sport. Initially, after I retired from competitive paddling after the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, I had the opportunity to serve as the color commentator for NBC at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. I had the opportunity to coach in the sport. I had the opportunity to serve on the board of directors at USA Canoe Kayak. And then in 2009, I became the chief executive officer of USA Canoe Kayak. And that was a huge honor, and it was a huge responsibility and a big challenge and a big opportunity all at once. And when I think about that blueprint for success at the Olympics, I would say it's when I got into that administrative job, when I strayed from that blueprint, and especially not really how I did my job, but more how I took care of myself, how I prepared myself to do the best I could every day. And specifically, I really lost track of my health. I gained a lot of weight. I made a lot of poor choices when it came to the food that I ate, which also affected the way that I slept and the way that I recovered, the things that I did with my spare time, how I was really kind of challenging myself to do better, to feel gratitude, how I managed stress in relationships. It was just kind of a one poor decision cycling on top of another poor decision. And the work was okay, but I wasn't doing very well. And I certainly wasn't the ambassador for my own athletes that I aspired to be. And then after the holidays with my family in 2012, I went back to the USA Canoe Kayak headquarters in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma City Boathouse District, just a really beautiful and impressive futuristic canoe kayak facility in downtown Oklahoma City. In January of 2013, I got involved with the employee wellness program, and with no big goals. I just looked at it as an opportunity during lunchtime. Instead of eating a lunch that wasn't very good for me, I did a workout. I went out and played with my friends and played sports and lifted weights and just did activities with no goals. And over a few months, I started to make improvements and started to feel better. And really what changed this time is I started to feel better. Instead of just saying, oh, I got this, and kind of moving on and going back to the ways, my old ways, I really just kept asking myself, what more can I do? What else might work? I was in a very experimental mode, so that physical health then became ways that I could improve myself mentally, and then improve myself emotionally, and then improve myself spiritually as well. And that just kept trending up very slowly in small steps. And it really kind of got my health back on track. And ultimately, it led me back to what did I really want to do with my life? And I decided to make a change. I left my job at USA Canoe Kayak, and I wanted to share. I want to do a couple of things. I wanted to share these things that have worked well for me with more people. And secondly, I really wanted to open myself to new opportunities and new adventures in my life. And that's what brings me here to Key West. Tomorrow, I'm getting on a boat. We are sailing to Cuba. Once we get to Cuba, we will start a window of about a week long where we will choose the best weather conditions and we will paddle kayaks from Havana back here to Key West, where I'm sitting right now. It's a 103-mile paddle that we will do straight through. And I've never done anything like this in my life. It's a huge challenge for me. My sport was paddling for, hard for 2 minutes and paddling through whitewater. And now we're going 103 miles across the ocean. It could take us 24 hours. It could take us 30 hours. It could take us even more. And we're going to go straight through. And that is a challenge. That's so different than something that I ever could have imagined doing. 1 year ago, I was still working for USA Canoe Kayak. I was really kind of caught up in the bureaucracy of running a national governing body. And today I'm just the night before kind of one of these life-changing adventures that when they come calling, and that's truly what happened. This adventure kind of found me. I didn't find it. And it's just, I look at it as a process of taking the time to get healthy and just doing it in very small steps and being dedicated to those small steps each day. That's my time. I wake up in the morning and I have a very specific daily practice that I do. And it involves just being attentive to how I improve myself just a little bit each day, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And just from that, I've just seen incredible changes in my life, not just on my health, but my relationships and my self-awareness. And it just kind of keeps going on from there. So that is why I'm here in Key West. And maybe now I am going to turn this over to the question and answer part of the program, or the, as we say, the AMA, Ask Me Anything. So the first question I have in front of me is, can you tell us more about your trip to Cuba and what brought it about? Well, I talked about it a little bit, but this is kind of a neat story. So right around the start of 2015, a young man named Davis Smith, who is the owner of Cotopaxi, an outdoor retail company, contacted me and said he's putting this trip to Cuba together, to kayak from Cuba to Florida, and I had to be a part of it. And back in February, in the comfort of a fireplace in our home in Tennessee, that sounded appealing. I was comfortable where I was, and the idea of paddling across the ocean sounded pretty cool. And but I say there was a part of me that said, "Oh, that's about a 50-50 chance that this thing is really going to happen." So but here we are. I just kind of kept sticking with it and thinking about what it would mean to line up on the start line and take on this challenge. And it was so aligned with the kind of values that I was sharing in my speaking and in my coaching and in my writing. So here I am. Another question, what was the biggest hurdle that you overcame in winning a gold medal? Look, I think when you think about the hurdles of accomplishing anything big, I think it's the hurdles. The hurdle is the consistency of doing the little things every day. I think if I think back to my time as an elite athlete, it was the repetition of doing the small things every day. And even in this next phase of my life, when I got unhealthy and had to figure out how to get healthy again, I really went back to my athletic days and did a deep dive into the kind of things we used to do as athletes, but repurpose those things for living a happier life with more contentment. And one of those things was doing the small detail stuff every day. And that's where that daily practice comes in for me, where I really take a little bit of time to make sure that I'm being physically healthy. I'm taking time to keep my mind sharp and create ideas, generate new ideas. I'm spending time with really good people that are more knowledgeable about things than I am. And then I'm also just figuring out how to be grateful for the things that I have today. And that, that's really, it doesn't matter whether it's winning a gold medal or just trying to accomplish something that's important to you in life. It's doing the small things well every day. Okay, a couple more questions about Cuba here. Have I ever gone that far? So this trip is going to be 103 miles straight through, give or take a few miles. I have not gone that far. The furthest I've ever gone in a continuously paddling is about 46 or 48 miles, and that was a long time ago. So this will be a lot different. One of the things that makes this a little bit different too is we're actually not paddling single kayaks. We're paddling tandem sea kayaks. So there'll be two of us in the boat. So very similar to the same ideals and principles that we executed when I paddled in the whitewater and in the doubles canoe. A lot of teamwork, a lot of synchronicity. Just I think rowers can appreciate this too, that idea of pulling together, pulling strokes together at 50% is better than having two people at 100% that just aren't really lining up their strokes very well. So there is a team element to our paddle across the Florida Straits from Cuba as well. I talked a little bit about my motivation to take on this trip. One thing I didn't share that I think is pretty cool. There's a social part to this Cuba adventure. We have not only people from the outdoor industry, who have some kayaking background, but we also have some pretty young entrepreneurs on the trip. But we're promoting small business and entrepreneurship in Cuba. In fact, on the first day we're there, we're actually meeting with young entrepreneurs in Cuba, and so we'll kind of get a sense of what the entrepreneurship scene is like. My understanding is that it's actually pretty impressive, but there's just not a very good source for information, for coaching, for sharing ideas. But the entrepreneurial spirit, very alive in Cuba and in Havana. Can't wait to see that. So there's that too. I see a question from a viewer. What's the percent of mental versus physical regarding the Cuba crossing, the upcoming paddling adventure? It's a really great question. I think certainly I've gotten into better shape over the last few years physically. I haven't done a ton of long distance kayaking. I've gotten into running marathons. I've run about 6 marathons now. I've really been making that shift towards becoming an endurance athlete. But it's funny, when I tell people what I think helps me the most for a trip like this. About a year ago, I started practicing meditation. And I'm not the kind of person who will accomplish something and say, wow, I'm really glad I meditate. But the reason I kind of bring up the role of meditation in this particular pursuit is that 24 to 30 hours is a long time to be alone with your thoughts in the kayak. And that means not just paddling in hot sunny conditions, but paddling through the dark of night as well, a long way from shore. And I think having that, having some awareness of how you process thoughts and how you pick out things to focus on and how you try to push things aside that aren't going to be helpful to you. Meditation is helpful for all of those things. And I think knowing that I have some strategies in which to deal with that will be really important. I see another question that the Florida Straits are reputed to be shark infested. What's your strategy for dealing with the big fish on your journey? Look, not a lot I can do about the sharks. All I can do is focus on what I'm supposed to do, which is to paddle well. And I think that the best way to do this is you're not paddling defensively. I don't ever go kayaking thinking my goal is not to flip over. My focus is when I paddle well and I do the things I'm supposed to do to keep the boat moving at a good trajectory, a good pace, and with good feeling, the boat works the way it's supposed to work. And then I'm a little less worried about obstacles that I really can't control, like the big fish. All right. Take a few more questions here. I mentioned my coaching program earlier, and someone asked, what is Five with Joe? Tell us about it and how we might get involved. So what happened is when I left USA Canoe Kayak, and I wanted to share a little bit about my own kind of lessons learned in getting healthier. I started by writing a free weekly newsletter called Sunday Morning Joe. And you can subscribe today for free to that. You just go to joejacobi.com, joejacobi.com. I write every week about improving performance, aligning with purpose, and overcoming challenge. And I love doing it. And again, it doesn't cost you anything. I hope it has relevant information. My goal with the Sunday Morning Joe newsletter is to give away better information for free than what other people are charging for. And that's been an incredible experience. I love writing it. The feedback I get from people who say it's helping them. I just love that. I love improving as a writing, and the idea that the writing is helping people grow and perform better just is enough to makes me want to keep doing it. But from that, there were people who said, I really want to go deeper with that. And I knew in my heart that creating a program that was a health and wellness program that improved performance, it increased self-awareness the same way that I had done it, but just kind of doing a deeper dive into that ideology and principle was the way to go. And I developed a 5-week program called Five with Joe, and it is geared towards both individuals and companies. So I work with corporate teams as well as individuals. And during the 5-week program, we explore 5 different themes of health, and we explore 5 different roles of your health. And so the individual program, I don't just run it anytime. We're going to be starting a new program very soon. If you actually sign up for my Sunday Morning Joe newsletter, I'll tell you how to get more information about Five with Joe, so that if you're interested in the program, you can sign up the next time it comes around. And if you're a company or you want to learn more about what I do with corporate teams, that I work on anytime that a corporate team is ready to do the work. But my focus there, I love this. The idea is on getting people healthy. We live in this time where we have access to incredible systems of performance. But the thing is that those systems are only as good as your people are healthy. And so I try to bring those two parts together, is to create, to give people the framework for improving their health in the same way that I did, and to do that within a system that a company has already chosen that knows is a good system for them. This just really increases the likelihood that the individual people that are doing the work for the company are going to perform even better and learn to just wake up for themselves every day and be happier as they come to work. So let's see where we are in this program. It is approaching 5 o'clock. I'm going to get on the water in just a few minutes here. So let's see. How has what you learned from Olympic training applied to your life after elite competition? Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot about that, but there's so much more. The funny thing is, it's not just about what I learned from elite competition. It's really strategies that I learned from paddling rivers as well. One of my Sunday Morning Joe posts a few weeks ago, I wrote about how the river is my life coach. I've just learned all these wonderful lessons from the river that are so applicable to the way we live. I mean, you think about a river being a moving body of energy, and we have to, we can either work with that body of energy or we can fight against it. And, I think the river really teaches you something about humility. It teaches you something about vulnerability, and it teaches you something about surrender as well. And at some point when there's a greater force of which to align with, and it's a force that, once you align with it, it really does take you in the direction of a richer life. It's just learning how to be more aware of that force. So I don't think it's just the Olympic and the elite competition lessons. I'm just so grateful that our sport of whitewater canoeing, a sport that takes place on rivers, does happen to be contested on the Olympic stage, and kind of allows us to bring the really special values and characteristics of whitewater to just one of the biggest platforms for athletics in the entire world. So I'm going to wrap it up on that if I don't see any other questions coming in. We have our own practice session here in the Florida Keys. So a lot of us are working together with our tandem kayak partners for the first time ever today. And so we'll be doing a little bit of paddling and getting a feel for each other and the kind of systems that we're going to use out on the water when we depart from Cuba sometime next week. So that starts now. It's exciting. I would say that our group is a little bit nervous, but very excited. There's a very humanitarian part to this mission. And I think the paddle back is truly just a way to honor these wonderful relationships that I think we are set to make over the next couple of days in Cuba. A couple of ways to stay involved. I mentioned the Sunday Morning Joe newsletter. You can subscribe for free to that at joejacobi.com. If you subscribe now, you will actually get you'll get the replay of this video and the link to the best way to follow our trip. But the easiest way to do that is cotopaxi.com/challenge113. That's cotopaxi.com/challenge113. And in addition to photos and videos at the Cotopaxi blog site, we'll also have a tracker once we start paddling. We're not sure exactly when that's going to be yet, but when we do, we'll have a tracker that's following us along, and you can see how we're doing on our progress. So I'm so grateful to InstaViser to be a part of this community. Look, this is the direction of coaching, and this is incredible that someone can get online. They can book a session with someone who is truly some of the best at what they do. It doesn't matter whether you want to try cycling, you want to try rowing, you want to try triathlon, BMX racing. There are so many incredible sports. There's so many incredible ambassadors. And whether you are looking to maybe just to take a step towards the top of your game that you've just been struggling to make, or maybe it's just a new sport that you want to try for the first time. And, 30 minutes with an InstaViser coach is such an easy way to just explore that option, and you will learn a ton in the process. So thank you, InstaViser. You guys have created something very cool here, and something that I think is going to serve the Olympic and amateur sports world for many years to come. So that's all from here. Thank you, everyone, and wishing you a good weekend, and look forward to sharing our adventures in Cuba in the coming days. Thank you. Goodbye from Key West.